Now it's time to plot a graph for our position time data. Here's the way you're going to plot the graph. It's relatively simple, but follow along nonetheless. Now, there's a shortcut that I'm not going to show you right now. The reason I'm not going to show you right now is because it works when you only have 2 columns like we have right now. If you have 3 or 4 columns, that shortcut doesn't work. So I'm not going to show you what that shortcut is, because I want you to be able to do it when you have any one of a number of columns, right? Not just 2 columns like we have in this particular activity. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to highlight the first column. I'm going to go all the way down to here. I don't want to go past here because I don't have any Y data for that. Now, listen carefully. This is my x-axis. Now it's time to insert your graph. Let's click insert. We only have one column highlighted right now. That's okay. Highlight one column and insert your graph. Now, that's going to create problems, but we'll resolve that problem in just a moment here. So let's insert it by clicking Insert a Chart. Now, here is where my data is. You can see that it's got column A, cell 3 to A95. I want column B as well. So I'm going to select this little button here. It says Select Data Range. I'm going to add another range, which is ultimately going to be column B. And I'm going to click OK. I could have selected both of those together and avoided this step. But sometime when you have a lab that has 3 or 4 or 5 columns in your data table, you can't skip this step then. I want you to be able to do it so that you know how to do it then. Let's click OK. Now I don't want a bar graph. So I'm going to go over here to Charts and select another option. I'm going to select a scatter plot, and the first choice within scatter plot looks like this. Let's click Insert. There's my graph. Well, there's lots of good things about this graph. A, it's pretty close to a straight line. But the problem with it is that there's a few data points that don't seem to fit on that line. If it's data points in the middle of the graph, we don't want to delete those data points. We don't want to delete just random data points. But if they appear at the beginning or the end like this, then it's safe to assume that something happened before or after the experiment took place. In other words, maybe you put your hand down there in the motion sensor's field of view right there. Maybe the car disappeared from the motion sensor's range right here. We can delete those points. If it appears in the middle, don't do that. If it appears at the beginning or the end, it's okay to do that. So let's go back and delete the first data point. I'm going to do that by literally just highlighting the first data point. Delete. Now it's gone. But look, I still have some points at the end that I need to delete. How many? It's kind of hard to tell in there. Kind of hard to tell how many points that is. So let's just select the last 3 data points. Delete those. See what that does for me. Scroll back up. Oh, it's better. But you can see that there's 3 more data points that I haven't deleted that I should. So let's scroll down and delete 3 more data points. When I do that, what does it look like? Oh, beautiful straight line. Perfect straight line here. So now it's time to tidy this up a little bit and draw a line of best fit. Go over to the top right-hand corner, click on the top right-hand corner, and then click the little down arrow to select Advanced Edit. That's going to allow you to enter a title for your chart. Ours is going to be position versus time. I'm going to scroll down a little bit further to label my horizontal axis, which is going to be time in seconds. Let's click on that axis button to label my vertical axis, which is going to be position in meters. Let's scroll down a little bit further to where it says trend line. Right now, there is no trend line. I want a trend line. So let's click linear. Now I can barely see that trend line. Scroll down a little bit further. Let's make it another color. Let's make it red. And the opacity, which means, I don't know why it selects the default as 40%. We want it as 100% because that makes it brighter. Now I can see that trend line in there. If you want to make it a little bit thicker, that's okay too. Make it a little bit thicker. Now the last thing we have to do here is label the slope. To label the slope, we go up to Label, which is right underneath the trend line, and click Use Equation. Now over here on the right-hand side, you see the equation for this graph. The first number that you see there will be the slope. So the slope of my graph, the velocity of my car was 0.351 meters per second. Does that make sense? I'm going to update this. So there's my graph that appears now in my spreadsheet. What I want to do now, though, is copy this into a document because I don't want to, when I'm marking your lab, I don't want to go into a spreadsheet and see stuff all over the place. I want to see a nice, clean, tidy document, like a Word document, except it's going to be a Google Doc instead of a Word document. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back to our classroom here. We're going to open it. We've already created the spreadsheet. Now I want to create a document. And in a moment, that's going to pop up. Constant Velocity Lab, Student Dickie, Google Docs. All right, perfect. Now I'm going to click on that. It's going to be empty because I haven't done anything. I could type my problem. Now I have to type my data. Oh boy, I don't want to copy that entire data table. That's huge. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to select my data. I'm going to go Control-C on my Chromebook or my computer. I'm going to go back to my lab write-up and go Control-V. That's going to paste that data into my lab. Now, I can tidy this up because there's a lot of empty spaces there, right? Like maybe I want to delete those cells. I'm going to delete those cells by right-clicking. On the Chromebooks, a right-click is just two-finger tap. Same thing as a right-click on a PC. Okay, delete rows. Okay, good. Okay, let's do the same thing right here. Right-click, delete the row. Just tidy it up a little bit by getting rid of all those empty rows. It takes up a lot less space as well. Okay, I'm not going to go through that entire process right now of deleting all the rows, but you can do that. You can manage that. Now it's time for analysis. Our analysis consists of our graph. So I want to go over to my graph. I want to click on that graph. Somewhere up near the top, when you see the hand, you're good. Now go Control-C, which is copy. Back to your lab write-up, Control-V, which is paste, and your graph should appear. There it is. Next, it's conclusion and sources of error. And that's it.